you're John Lynch. Everything that's happened has happened. You're in charge, and Aiyuk's got this trade request out. You know what your team looks like. You know you're inside your Super Bowl window. You can play your hand of cards a lot of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
How you playing your hand? What are you doing?
I do nothing. I do what Brandon Aiyuk should have been doing this entire time. I say, hey, we would love to have serious, adult, professional, 9-figure negotiations with you. We would love to sign you to a long-term contract to be a member of the San Francisco 49ers, and we are very ready to pay you a better than market rate, a market rate for your services. What we need to do is know that you're going to be able to engage in those negotiations, because every conversation we've had to this point, it feels like you're unwilling to engage in negotiations. You're holding to a number. We have told you we're not willing to pay that number. We would love to work something out. You let us know if you're willing to come off your number, and I think we can work something out. But until then, you are under contract for this upcoming season. We'd like to remind you that the franchise tag is available to us. We'd love to have you on long-term deal, keep you as a 49er for the rest of your career. But ultimately, it's upon you, Brandon Aiyuk, to come off a number that we have told you we will not meet. So the ball is in your court, and we're hoping that you give us a call here soon, because, by the way, come next Tuesday, we're going to start fining you $45,000 a day.
I'm having one conversation with him, but it's not I think the Niners are pointing in the same direction that Aiyuk's pointing. I think he's pointing towards leaving. I think they're pointing towards him leaving. And to me, sending him out of the conference to a team like New England makes a lot of sense. And what the deal I would try to make with New England is Aiyuk. They got tons of cap room. They got no weapons. They got a first, brand new rookie quarterback. They got Alex Van Pelt's their OC. You got, Jacoby Brissett, Drake May, Joe Milton at your quarterback. It's a run heavy scheme. They need a receiver. They need a big time guy. They don't have any receivers.
Tell me Kendrick Bourne doesn't scratch that itch for them?
Yeah, it's the worst receiving core in the
Pop Douglas.
I would say, here, I'll give you Aiyuk. I want Demario Douglas, small 5'8" second-year receiver.
Yeah.
I want Christian Gonzalez, and I want a second-round pick in next year's draft. And that's it. You can, you're right. Christian Gonzalez is probably too light, even though he was a first-round pick.
Yeah.
But a replacement receiver, a corner, and a second from a team like New England, where you got a pretty good expectation that that's going to be, in the top 35. That could be pick number 33. It really could be. Could almost be like a first. And that might be your ticket next year to combine those two late picks to try to get up to 15 or so to get that tackle that you're obviously going to need at some point that you didn't get this year. But that's what I would do. I would not mess around with it. I would not have him show up or hold in and the reality is that you can't afford this guy. You're going to pay Brock Purdy $60 million and you don't even throw the ball, and you got a bunch of receivers, and you just drafted two more that you like. And you just drafted a couple running backs. So, I mean, you're going to probably run the ball a little bit more. You probably, your offensive line's a better run blocking line. You probably could afford to run the ball a little bit more and just use Brock Purdy as as kind of the guy with the continuity piece. To me, that's a very, very reasonable deal. Christian Gonzalez, Demario Douglas, and a second-round pick. And New England gets a big-name guy that they can build around and a young receiver they can pair with Drake May. And the Niners get down the road on the cap, and they get a couple pieces they can use and maybe have a beginning to getting that offensive tackle that they're going to need. So, to me, that I think is the best deal that I could make. And then I don't have to worry about him going to Washington and turning Jaden Daniels of the Commanders into a dynasty. I don't got to worry about him, going to
in general.
I don't worry about him going to Green Bay. A lot of people say Green Bay may want him. I don't want to see him in Green Bay.
That's fine.
He's
not going anywhere the 49ers don't want him to go, though, Larry.
AFC, and it's, the odds are he's probably not going to play in the playoffs. Or I would say the Patriots are at least 3 years away from any kind of playoff run, and they're probably more like 5 to 10 years away from any kind of.
You are issuing him to football purgatory.
Yeah, I mean,
you're punishing him with that.
You just banished him. You banished him. Yeah. He's in a major media center, but which will, I'm sure, annoy the hell out of him. Yeah. But but essentially, you don't have to worry about him getting the upper hand. You may not win the Super Bowl, but he ain't going to win it either. And you get a starting corner with size who's young, and you get a second-year receiver who's small but quick, and you get a draft choice. And it's not a first. They keep their first, so because they're going to probably be first pick in the draft, but you're going to get their high second, and to me that's fair. A high second, replacement receiver, and Christian Gonzalez. I'm done with the Aiyuk discussion. I'm done with the paying the receivers that much money. I know Shanahan loves Debo anyway. What if Debo has a big year? This way, now if Debo has a big year, you can keep him.
You're betting though on Debo having a big year, but also somehow coming out of this year healthier than he's ever. Like, it's not a question on if they think Debo can be productive. It's a question on if they think Debo can stay alive as a football player. And there's just no reason to believe that the best football Debo Samuel has played is in the future. So you cannot re-up him. You cannot give him a new contract. And ultimately, they're at kind of a shit or get off the pot moment when it comes to Debo Samuel, and they've decided to get off the pot. You and I can agree on the fact that Brandon Aiyuk isn't worth what he's asking to be paid. Now, the question is and
he's really not worth it to the Niners, despite the fact he's a great run blocker, because they want to run the ball. They want to run the ball.
They want to run the ball, yes.
Or let's just say this. He's a better receiver than they technically need. That's all.
Technically need. But the entire point of the Super Bowl window is having surplus needs. It's having a quarterback who made $1 million or even less. He was not even top 51 at one point when he was starting in the NFL. It's having that, and then you getting so much talent around him that no matter how he played, you were fine. Even the most important position in sports, no matter how well he played, you were fine. Now, he ended up playing exceptionally well. And I do think that there is something to be said for the 49ers very much believe in Brock Purdy, but they also very much believe that they should have what they view as an elite wide receiver alongside him. And I would say this, I know that the statistics bear something out, but the feel of that offense last year was very different than the feel that we had when Trey Lance was quarterback for that blip in time, and certainly when Jimmy Garoppolo was the quarterback and anyone who preceded him, in that they went 4-5 wide a lot. They went empty a lot. They played Big 12 football plenty. And in particular, in the two games where they really needed it, they went full Big 12 in the second half of the NFC divisional round, NFC championship game, where Brock Purdy was just slanging that thing. And that is something that Kyle Shanahan has openly said, that's what Brock feels comfortable with. We're going to put Brock in shotgun on every snap. We're not going to be in 11 personnel as often. I think they're going to be, 21 personnel as often. I think they're going to be a pretty heavy 11 personnel team now moving forward since they paid Juwan Jennings. I think that some of the statistics, again, are a little bit skewed by the fact that the 49ers just don't run a lot of plays. But I think that this is a team that wants to be more passing. I think that while we say, of course, it's a Kyle Shanahan team, they want to run the ball, they want to pound the rock, that's fine. They don't have to. They want to take what the defense is giving them. And when you have Christian McCaffrey, a lot of times that's throwing the football. And you think about what they did on first down last year. They were in empty as often as any team in the NFL besides the Arizona Cardinals. They took what the defense gave them. And that includes going 4-5 wide. And yes, you do have the depth. I think that the 49ers would have a better argument for moving off of Brandon Aiyuk if Ricky Pearsall was here to start training camp. I don't know when he gets activated. Maybe he is there. I think that no matter what happens, we're going to get to see a lot of Ricky Pearsall if he's healthy, or if he's capable of playing. We're going to see a lot of Ricky Pearsall as the next receiver. And we might have a better idea if Brandon Aiyuk is worth what he's worth to the San Francisco 49ers with a couple of training camp practices with Ricky Pearsall standing in for Brandon Aiyuk in the offense. But if we're not going to get that, Brandon Ayuk's leverage goes up a little bit. I know he's botched every bit of leverage to this point, but it goes up a little bit if there's no clear-cut backup for him, if there's not an obvious replacement for him, and if Ricky Pearsall isn't out there to say, hey, you know what, Brandon Ayuk's really, really good. He's an all-pro player, but here I am. I'm cheap, and the difference between what you're going to pay him and what you're going to have to pay me isn't worth the delta when it comes to cost. Until we see that, we're just guessing that, and Kyle Shanahan is not a man who operates very much on faith. That's not his ball game. He needs to see it. This is the same guy who trusts veterans again and again and again. He just does not operate on faith at all. So while, you say, hey, you drafted him early, you got Cowing here, you got all these guys. Those guys got to earn it the same way that Brandon Aiyuk earned it. And it took a shit long time for Brandon Aiyuk to earn it. And now that he's earned it, he's a made man. And I don't think they're going to go full Joe Pesci and blow his brains out in the room when he comes in to negotiate.
And don't think it's like a for sure thing that you're going to earn that respect. I mean, ask Cam Latu about that right now. He's
Cam Latu wasn't even around long enough to figure out that he didn't get
he's still around. He's still around, but we'll see what he does this summer.